Welcome to another Fantasy Goodfellas video where we talk about the top 15 tight end rankings for week 4. You ready?
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
Rolling on the field.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
All right, this week we're going to talk about the top 15 tight end rankings for week 4. Now, this is a live video, so if we make some mistakes, you'll understand why, just like I did there. And what I want to do is, this is my fantasy football research. Some people like to go on a lot of different sites. For me, I like to make these videos. It gives me a chance to dive into this week's lineups, this week's matchups, so I can make my own decisions. That's why I do it. I always think that if this works for me, maybe it'll work for you. That's what this is all about. But let's just jump right into it. I'm going to try to make this video pretty quick because it's only 15 tight ends, and there's only one tight end spot. So let's just get right into it. Let's go. So the number one tight end for week 4 is going to be Travis Kelce at the New York Jets. Now, let's look at his stats for week 3. Now, there's a lot of hoopla outside of football with Travis Kelce. 69 receiving yards, 1 receiving TD. He did well. Can he keep it up? He's in the spotlight. Yeah, I know he's a great receiver, but does a couple off the field things. You know, if he doesn't perform well, it's going to build up that pressure. So he better perform well, because if not, his performance is going to be attached to what's going on off the field. I don't like it, but it is the New York Jets. Number 2, TJ Hockenson at the Carolina Panthers. Now, Hawkinson's playing really well. Minnesota is kind of desperate in a way. They're playing well. They're just not winning. And if you look here, I always like to dive down. Remember, with tight ends, it's all about touchdowns. Here, Hockenson had 8 catches for 78 yards. That's a lot of usage. That's nearly, that's a pretty good percentage, right? That's about 16%. So he needs to do that again. But with 78 receiving yards, he was in the top 12, right? He was ranked 12. So Hawkinson's going to do well. He's your guy. You're starting him if you have him on your lineup. Mark Andrews at the Cleveland Browns. Now here you go. Mark Andrews wasn't ranked in the top 15. Mark Andrews in week 2 was the number 3 best tight end. And in week 1, he wasn't ranked. Maybe he was injured. Not sure. Should make a note on the stats and graphs. But the question is 35 receiving yards is not cutting it. Does Andrews get into the end zone? If you look at what's going on with Lamar Jackson, he's running it. 101 rushing yards. 202 passing yards, that's not a lot. You sling that around, nobody's feeding off of that. But it is Mark Andrews. It's the Cleveland Browns. I like to see him here. At number 4, George Kittle, home versus the Arizona Cardinals. The problem I see with all these tight ends is we have the same names in the predictions. We got the same names in the rankings for this week. But it always doesn't work out like that. You always have some outliers, some other ones. So you're trying to say, who's the tight end that's going to get you there? Kittle is one of those tight ends I think you can rely on. Brock Purdy is slinging it, but look at that. 7 catches, 90 yards. He's involved in that offense. So you got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. I think Kittle can do good. It's just, again, it's all about the tight end touchdowns. Number 5, Taysom Hill, home versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, always seeing Hill in as a tight end is always hilarious to me. But if that's what you got, that's what you're riding with. Here he is 1 reception, 9 receiving yards, and 12 rushes. He was not in the top 15. So he's questionable. Now, not a lot of people have 2 tight ends on their roster. But if you got Taysom Hill, I don't know. It's going to be, let's look at his overall chart. it's hit or miss. Look at this, week 2, he had negative receiving yards. That's hilarious. I haven't seen that much. Touchdowns, no touchdowns, and the points. So it's a stretch for Hill this season. I don't like it. Number 6, Sam Laporta. Now, this is the tight end I think has a chance to be in the top 3 every week. Here he is at Green Bay, and last week he was the number 1 ranked tight end. 84 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. There you go. That's where you're seeing it. In week 2, 63 receiving yards in the top 10. You got Sam Laporta, you're starting him. The only one, even in week 1, 39 receiving yards, and he was still in the top 15. So if you got him, you got to play him. If you don't have him, trade for him. Number 7, Darren Waller, home versus the Seattle Seahawks. So what are we going to expect? Now, it's a travesty to see Darren Waller not getting the usage, not getting the yards. He's dropping a couple balls I've seen, and it's just, you picked him. Here he got 76 receiving yards. In week 16, in week 1, he was ranked 16 out of the top 15. It's just, I don't know if you can depend on him. It's a stretch. There might be some other tight ends that are getting hot right now. At number 8, Evan Ingram, home versus the Atlanta Falcons. Ingram is playing like a tight end, right? That means that Jacksonville offense is not lighting it up. But he's getting that 67 yards. He's in the top 15. You got him, you're playing him. So we look at that. That's what we got real quick. So that's what we got. At number 9, Kyle Pitts at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kyle Pitts is another one, just disappointing, and you can't really see how disappointing it is until you look. Look, 41 receiving yards in week 3. In week 2, 15 receiving yards. And in week 1, 44 receiving yards. But he went very high in the tight end in your draft. You expect to get into the end zone or have about 100 receiving yards. That's what you want from him. It's not happening. It's getting scary that he can't perform. You might have to look for some other players. Here, number 10, Dallas Goedert at home versus Washington Commanders. And again, here's just disappointing for tight ends. 41 receiving yards. Not cutting it. Even though you're in the top 15, not cutting it. You get 4 points if you're not in PPR and standard. Not cutting it. At number 11, you got Pat Freiermuth at the Houston Texans. Here's somebody that I expect to be in the top 5. If you got Pat Freiermuth, no matter what's going on, he is the standout for that Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I like him every week. If you got Pat Freiermuth, obviously you're happy. And this just gives you a rank for how it looks. He was the 6th best tight end in week 1 and the 5th best tight end in week 3. I expect him to do well again. At number 12, Gerald Everett at the home versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Here he has 30 receiving yards. That put him as 23. If you're not paying attention to him, let's just take a look at that. 47 receiving yards in week 2 and 21 receiving yards. So, again, he's not cutting it. We're going to look at some rankings in a minute, but not cutting it. At number 13, Luke Musgrave, home versus the Detroit Lions. He is somebody I like. He's young, and he should be able to play much better. He's getting the targets. He's just not getting that long bomb. He's not getting that long, deep 20-yard plus throw catch yet. It's going to happen. At number 14, you got David Njoku, home versus the Baltimore Ravens. Now, again, we know he can ball. We know he can win you some games. We know he can get you some stats. But we got to take a look at what's going on. Deshaun Watson is back, right? He's back this past week, but he's spreading the ball out. So you got Cooper, you got Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Goodwin. He's dependent on those running backs to throw the ball. I think David gets into the end zone this coming week. I think he'll do okay. At number 15, you got Hunter Henry at the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Hunter Henry didn't do good week 3. Did very good in week 2. 52 receiving yards, 1 receiving TD. And in week 1, you have 56, same stat, look at that. 56 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. In week 2, 52 receiving yards. So let's go to, that's the predictions, right? So same names. I've heard these same names for a long time. So I want to come back here and I want to look at the rankings, right? So let's look at the tight end rankings for week 3. These are the names that you should be popping out. So Slam Laporta was the number 1. Mr. Brown, Travis Kelce. Look at this. Donald Parham. You got Brevin Jordan, Tyler Higbee, Jimmy Graham, crazy offseason, Josh Oliver, and Andrew Beck. If 16-team league, Jake Ferguson. So those are some names that are not on your radar. Those are worth that you should pick up and maybe start. But this is the list right here of all that. Now look at these names: David, Darren, Taysom, Gerald Everett, Mark Andrews. They're 22 and above. Kyle Pitts. That's not what you're expecting. So very disappointing for tight ends. You got to find these gems. Cole Turner. Those are the gems you got to have. I just think that when it comes to tight ends, you got to gamble a little bit. You got the same names, but there's some other people that are performing. It's so volatile, it doesn't matter to go with the name brands, right? That same names we always see. So anyways, you got to look at those rankings and see how those other tight ends are performing. I'm sure those are all waiver wire pickups. Nobody's picking up 2-3 tight ends. Not even 2 tight ends. Anyways, that was the top 15 tight end rankings for week 4. I hope I showed you some stats, so it kind of maybe helps with your decision making and maybe pick somebody up. All right. As always, thanks for watching. We also do some waiver wire pickup videos on some shorts that we upload, and then we do some injury reports on Thursdays and Sundays. But that's going to do it for the top 15 tight ends for week 4. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.